Hi, and welcome to Z Games. Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane and broadcast nationally over the Community Radio Network, Z Games brings you the latest gaming news, reviews and interviews from across Australia and around the world.
You are listening to Z Games, yours and Australia's favourite gaming radio show, coming to you live from the 4ZZZ studios in Brisbane. It's been a long day for me, folks. I'm sorry. You might also be listening to us on the Community Radio Network around the nation. I am Lee, and I am joined by Razor.
Hey.
Alana Pierce.
Hi.
Jody McGregor.
Hello.
And that's it. What are we talking about on this episode?
Well, Jody has a couple of games to review. He's been playing Lego Batman 3 Beyond Gotham.
That's right.
And you've also been playing Space Hulk Ascended Edition.
Yeah, that's right. Sort of a new version of a game that was only just released last year.
As well as that, Lee, Alana, and I have been playing Assassin's Creed Unity. Mm-hmm. So that's going to follow on from our review of Assassin's Creed Rogue that we did last week. Lee, if you remember, gave it a glowing recommendation.
Yes.
So we'll see what our verdict is on Assassin's Creed Unity. But first, let's get this episode started with the Week in Gaming News headlines, if you will, Mr. Jody McGregor.
I will. Early adopters of the PS Vita in the US will be partially refunded due to a settlement between Sony America and the Federal Trade Commission over claims of false advertising. The FTC's claim stated that Sony's ads that said the handheld console would revolutionize gaming mobility by allowing users to pause PS3 games and instantly resume gameplay on the Vita, a feature that never materialized. The FTC's complaint also mentioned the fact that the advertisement stated that multiplayer gaming was possible over a 3G network, when in reality it can only be used to access social features. Under the terms of the settlement, anyone who purchased a PS Vita in the US before the 1st of June 2012 is eligible to receive $25 cash or Sony Network services to the value of $50.
It's kind of nice to see someone actually acting on this stuff. Like, they actually did do things that weren't there, and it's cool that they actually got called up on it. Speaking of advertising, have you guys seen that ad?
Yeah.
The ad.
For what?
Okay, so there's this lady with boobs on both sides. You can't see her face. It's just a
I
female
have seen
body.
this ad.
Boobs on both sides, and then the PlayStation Vita near it, and it's like something like enjoy both sides because it has functionality on the back.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Because it's got a touchscreen on the back and the front.
Yeah.
Just like you would, I guess, touch the boobs of the headless
Both
mannequin.
of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would do that, but I mean,
You got to
I'm sure
have
could find a
really,
way.
really big hands.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's actually from like 2012 as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's only just been going around now.
Yeah, I saw it the other day and I thought it was a new campaign and I was like, what kind of person would greenlight this now? But apparently they greenlit it in 2012 when you were allowed to be as sleazy as you wanted.
Well, we've come a long way since 2012.
Yeah, we really have.
I just don't understand why that would make you want to buy the thing. Like, even the idea of having a touchscreen on both sides isn't like, oh my god, I'm going to buy it. Like,
imagine the room where someone pitched that idea and everyone else in there was like, oh yeah, 4 boobs. Yeah, that's gonna push some
All
units.
right.
Yeah. Yes.
Crowdfunding website Kickstarter has cancelled a campaign for a device that would drain blood from gamers as they played violent video games relative to the amount of damage they sustained in-game. The proposed device was to be called Bloodsport, with the drained blood to be donated to blood banks. No reason given, as Kickstarter does not comment on specific campaign suspensions. At 6 days in, $3,900 had been raised of a target of $250,000.
Nice try, Dracula.
I saw videos of people doing this, and I can't believe it even raised that much money. Why would you ever want to do that to yourself? You'd pass out from blood loss.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to do anything.
Maybe you would, noob,
Yeah,
but
well,
if you're awesome.
It's just, but why would you want to get rid of your own blood? I don't...
It's
Like,
for
I would
charity.
prefer the kind of shocking stuff, you know, how, like, if you get zapped or whatever, but...
Yeah, but, like, it's not like that electricity can go to people who, have a deficit.
That is true.
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess...
I would prefer to just, go donate blood safely and then play some video games.
Because the other thing with this is it means that if you're good at video games, you are holding your own blood hostage.
That's true.
Yeah.
Jerk.
Yeah, that's right.
How dare you?
So apparently it wasn't for people to use in their own homes,
No.
because that would just be
I
crazy.
thought that it was for purchase in your own home, though.
What?
I thought you
No.
could get it
No.
privately.
No, it was for,
Not
I
at all?
guess, perhaps trained professionals to come run in a sort of bus, and you'd go to the blood bus and play a game.
I swear one of the rewards was to own it.
Yeah, it could have been. I think the top tier reward was to own one, and maybe that's why it got cancelled. But I think the purpose of the device was more as
Yeah.
things to be used under the supervision of medical professionals, or
Yeah,
at
they were
least
crowdfunding an event where they
Yeah.
could do this, not the option for you to do it on your
I
couch.
swear it was one of the rewards. And then that's what made me like, why would you know?
What an amazing USB peripheral to plug into the front of your Wii U while you play Smash Brothers.
It sends your blood over the internet.
Yes.
Can you imagine playing Mortal Kombat with it though?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be dead pretty shortly.
Well, also, like, if you are weakened from blood loss and then you see a particularly nasty fatality, you are likely to faint or throw up. So,
I mean, that could be fun.
yeah,
Yeah, you're like, the fatalities are more effective, right?
yeah, yes. So that's an awful, weird sex thing, internet. Don't do that again.
Welcome back to Z Games. That was Supernova Kiss by Null Sleep. We're in the Triple Z studio right now. We have Ray, we have Lee, and Jody is just about to talk to us about Lego Batman 3 Beyond Gotham.
Yeah, that's right. The Lego games come out so regular. They're like,
like 2 a
Call of
year now or
Duty
something?
or Assassin's Creed even. They're such a regular event that they do get kind of formulaic. Often you go into one and you know what you're going to get. You know that you're going to be punching a lot of Lego blocks and collecting the studs and then building new things out of the Lego and unlocking characters and doing all of the things you did in the other Lego games. But Lego Batman 2 was one of the rare sort of innovators. It was the first one that had fully voiced characters. Before that, they'd all been weird mimes who just signed and made noises. And it was also the first one that added an open world where between levels you could actually wander around. It had this big Gotham City that you could hoon around in with a friend, like driving the Batmobile and Robin's Batcycle or whatever Lego vehicle you wanted, and beating up hoodlums and finding
just smash
hidden bricks
everything.
and just smashing everything.
Yeah, I love that.
It was like, it's what I want from the next Arkham game, basically, but cute. It was really good. It was one of the highlights of the series, and then they made Lego Marvel Superheroes after that, which was sort of like the same thing, only even better, with its big open Manhattan you could tool around in. So they've had to go like one bigger for this one. And so while Lego Batman 2 threw in, like, you could play Superman as well as Batman and Robin and a few other characters, this has opened up a huge chunk of the DC Comics back catalogue.
I think I
like
heard
the
somewhere
deep
that it
cuts.
has the most characters of any of the Lego games, or the most playable characters.
I would believe that, but
There's
a lot of
over
them are
100.
alternate versions of the same characters.
Right.
So, like, there's Batman and Robin and Batgirl, and then there's 1966 versions from the
Okay.
TV show of all of those characters and of the Riddler and the
That's still
Joker
pretty
and so
cool.
on. Yeah. So they may be padding the numbers a little bit, but there are a lot of them. There's no way I could have unlocked them all, and I unlocked a lot because I really wanted to play Detective Chimp. And now I can.
Good.
So the way they've made this one bigger is by going into space. So rather than running around in Gotham City between levels, you're running around on the Watchtower, which is the Justice League satellite, and a base on the moon. And then from there to like 6 planets, each of which are the home base for a different kind of lanterns. Like the Green Lanterns have their green world, and then there's like a pink one, a purple one, an orange, a red, blue as well. And each of them is this big sphere, like a basketball-sized thing made out of Lego that your little minifigs run around on, doing side quests and races and puzzles, like you're in The Little Prince or Super Mario Galaxy.
Oh, weird.
Right.
Yeah, it is an odd thing to do. Instead of having an open world or a hub, like the first Lego Batman game just had the Batcave between levels. This still has the Batcave, and then you can teleport from there to the Hall of Justice and to the Watchtower satellite, and then to like 6 other planets, and it's really weird.
So if it's worth mentioning, which is always hit and miss with the Lego games, how does that tie into the story?
The story is that Brainiac has come from another world to shrink the Earth so that he can put it in his collection of
Right.
space oddities, which he's doing by stealing the power of all of the various different colored lanterns on the way. So you, as the Justice League, have to go out into space as Batman
Right.
and Superman and Wonder Woman and all of these characters.
So does
and
it feel a little
get
bit
the
more
power
like a
back.
Lantern game?
Sort of, but they're not the main characters. The main characters are still
Justice League.
Batman, Superman,
Why-
Cyborg.
Yeah, why is this particularly? I mean, apart from the fact that like he is the most saleable DC character, like what is it about this story that like how do they tie Batman into a Brainiac story?
Weirdly, there's a B plot where the Legion of Doom, like Joker and Lex Luthor, are trying to break into the satellite and take over the Earth using the Justice League satellite, and Batman is onto this plot. So you start out as Batman and Robin following this plot, and you just happen to wind up following these villains as they sneak onto the Justice League satellite, and you defeat them just as Brainiac shows up to take over, so you're just in the right place at the right time.
And so he's not, well, I better, leave this one to the guy who usually fights this guy.
No, because you don't trust Superman at all. Lego Batman is a jerk.
Oh, right,
It's
okay.
like Superman doesn't trust him at all. It's like, yeah.
So is there anything different mechanically?
Not a huge amount. It does feel a lot like the other Lego games when you're actually playing the levels. You're in an area that's sort of gated off from the next area or cutscene, and you have to punch things until you figure out how to solve the puzzle
I
to get
sometimes
past
find
the
that
next
so
gate.
frustrating because I can't figure out what to punch.
Yeah. so
Like
you
I
have to
swear I've
punch all the
punched
things.
everything here,
Yeah,
and I haven't.
I hate that point where, you can get trapped in a Lego game if you miss that one little clue, and you are just going back and forth in this empty place for like 45
I get so
minutes.
frustrated at them.
Yeah, they're better now, and they're much better at signposting that. But I still have found myself in situations where I've been like almost driven mad. Yeah, I think during Lego Marvel Superheroes, my girlfriend almost threw the PlayStation controller through the TV just because we like missed a single grate where Mr. Fantastic could get through and continue the thing.
Oh, there was one point in that game where I had to like blow up I had to fly up as Iron Man and shoot rockets at these things that were shooting rockets at me. And I couldn't figure out how to both fly and shoot at the same time, and I never did. I ended up just like rubbing up on all of the walls and just kind of repeatedly shooting until things fell off. Like, I just had no idea how to do it because it's supposed to be B to press rockets when you're on the ground, but if you're flying, it's like B makes you go down.
Yeah, you have to press X.
They didn't tell me that. I was so mad. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try and hack my way and just blow everything up that way.
Yeah,
What?
they're not great. This one still isn't great at explaining itself. It assumes that you've played the other Lego games because it'll tutorialize parts of it, but not other parts. So it'll sometimes be telling you stuff you already know and then not telling you things that you don't know, like about the specific powers of these new characters, for instance. And you just have to muddle around until you figure it out.
With all of the new characters, is it the same as Lego Marvel Superheroes where you kind of have to play them for specific levels and it forces you to swap, or can you choose yourself?
You have to go through the whole thing in story mode with the preset characters, and then you can go back and free play with whichever characters
Okay.
you've unlocked. So you do have to go through the first time with the kind of the boring characters, and then you can go back later as Swamp Thing and the 1966 version of the Joker, if that's what you
That'd be
want.
cool.
That is what I want. Yeah.
I want to hear more about 1966 Batman now.
Well, that's the highlight of the whole game. The story mode itself is actually pretty, like, the plot's not very good. And it's not super funny. Like, I thought Lego Marvel Superheroes was really charming and funny, and this is just sort of like a generic B-plot from the actual comics. And then at the end, you unlock this bonus level where all of a sudden Adam West, the 1966 Batman, is narrating an episode of the TV show in which you are the stars. And it hits all of the references that you expect from the 66 show. Like, when you punch henchmen, horn blast sound, and there's like these big cartoony thwack, zlap, pows across the screen.
I could play an entire game like
Yeah.
that.
I wish this entire game was like that. The
Yeah.
bonus level is easily the best part of it. It was so much fun. And it ends with everyone dancing the Batusi, and there's a chase sequence in the 1960s Batmobile.
Do they climb up a wall?
Yeah, the closing credits is Batman and Robin climbing up a wall.
Oh my
That's awesome.
god, yeah. So, but you have to play through the entire, like,
Yeah.
very, very, like, kind of
Middling,
ordinary. Yeah.
to get to the awesome
What a
part, which is-
punishment.
Yeah, I I can imagine like kids just getting their parents to finish the story mode for me, and then they can get to the actual fun part of the game.
Speaking of which, who do you think is the target audience for this game?
It's weird because it hits a lot of nostalgia points for old people, but also it's a kids game. So I assume that like most of the Lego games, it's aimed at
Everyone.
kids and their parents playing together. But it's the kind of game I can see kids going, you know, Dad, get me to the good bit, and Dad's like, oh, okay, yeah. So I didn't enjoy it as much as Lego Marvel Superheroes, even though it does have a couple of really neat things in it.
Would you still recommend it?
Only if you are a huge DC Comics nerd. Otherwise, Lego Marvel Superheroes or Lego Lord of the Rings does the same thing better.
Okay.
Well, there's at least one hardcore DC Comics nerd in this room right now. I'm looking at him.
Are you?
Lee?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was assuming
like,
you were
which
talking
one of
about the
us
others.
is
Yeah.
that?
Like seriously.
We're not sure.
Which DC Comics character would you want to play in Lego form?
Oh, I'm thinking a Lego version. Actually, Detective Chimp would be amazing. Does he have any cool powers?
He has the best fight moves because he's constantly bouncing and leaping around, and he attacks with his banana. When you do the special move, you can leap and then smack down someone with your banana, and then sometimes, just at random, he will pull like 6 bananas out of his pockets, eat them, and then spit them out at an enemy like he's machine gunning them.
That's great.
It's so much fun.
What is Plastic Man like?
Plastic Man is just like Mr. Fantastic in Lego Marvel Superheroes, so he turns into like a plane to fly, and at specific points you'll be allowed to transform into like a screwdriver or whatever to open a door.
Okay.
Is Man Bat in it?
Yeah, but I didn't pay the money to unlock him. Like, I found him and then I was like, nah, like it's you or like Ace the Bat Hound. I'm going to go with the dog.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Is Animal Man in it?
I haven't found him.
Wow. Really?
Surely you would be.
Yeah. He's significant enough.
Yeah, but hard to do because his powers are so weird.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. What about Lobo?
Yeah, he's in it.
I feel like we're probably getting a bit niche here.
Yeah.
John Constantine?
Yeah, actually.
No,
Ah, come on.
I think a lot of the Vertigo characters beyond Swamp Thing aren't in here because it's aimed at kids. So
Yeah,
there's
but-
no Doom Patrol or...
Constantine's part of the main universe these days.
Yeah, but he's still
Still
not
pretty
like
brutal,
a
though.
kid's character.
Unlike,
Batman would so resent you saying that.
Yeah.
I'm a kid's character? What?
Kids love you, Batman.
No!
Maybe
Justice!
Maybe I'm geeking out a bit too much here, but wouldn't it be cool if there was like Lego Vertigo?
Yeah.
So you had like Morpheus from Sandman and
That would be
And
really cool.
Preacher Cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. All right, so Jody, would you like to finish this review off by listing every single platform that you can purchase Lego Batman 3 Beyond Gotham on?
You can get it on PC, PS3, 360, PS4, Xbox One, Wii U, and there'll be also a crappy cut-down version for the 3DS and the Vita. Don't buy that.
You were listening to Zed Games, and that was local artist Slato with Plateau Trance. So, Jody, you have not just been playing the Batman game, you've been playing Space Hulk, which sounds like it should be Marvel's answer to Batman in space, but is not at all.
I would love to be playing a game about the Hulk
I
in
would
space.
totally play Space Hulk.
Yeah. But it's the other
That's
space.
not. No, it's the other. It's the board game Space Hulk that has been turned into a video game 4 times now, and the third one was only just last year. So that's odd. But it is a cool board game. Like, I played it when I was 14. It's the board game where teams of Space Marines aboard creepy floating ghost ships in space that have come out of faster than light travel full of aliens, and then they shoot the hell out of those aliens. It's a super fun board game, but really expensive and hard to find. So
So what's
that's
it
why
like
there's
as a video game?
of it. Well, the previous version last year was very faithful to the board game, to the point of like having dice roll when you fired your guns. This version, they've made, in answer to some criticisms of that, much more video gamey. It's graphically more impressive because the previous one was made for tablets and then ported to PC, and all the animations were really cheap and kind of rubbish. This one actually looks like a schmicko video game for the PC with great animations where like 4-armed aliens claw your face off and smash you to the ground. So that's fun.
That's usually all it takes to sell a game to me. But keep going, because you had some
Well-
very on-point criticisms of it when you played.
Yeah, this does change it in some interesting ways, but not really fix everything that, in my dream fantasy version would have been fixed. So it does things like make you able to personalize your Space Marines more. They actually gain abilities and level up between missions in a very video
Sorry, is it
gamey way.
team-based?
Yeah, you have a squad of 5 guys, and in some missions you get a second squad. So in the big hard missions you'll get 2 squads of 5,
Okay.
and then you have some reinforcements as well in case those guys die between missions. You can replace them with like lower level dudes. So they gain abilities and new weapons, and you can rename them now, and you can change what their faces look like and
Do they
what
have
their
hats?
armor looks like. They have helmets. So
Yeah.
it's not quite the level of customization you had in XCOM Enemy Unknown, but it's sort of nodding in that. It's heading in that direction. So you can name your Space Marines after your friends if you want them to, and then be very sad when they die. The other thing that it does differently is make the campaigns bigger and more about choice. You'll often have 2 missions you can do next, and you pick whether you want to do like the mission where you have to protect a location from infinite waves of bad guys or go and blow a thing up. Sometimes there are optional missions where it's risky to take this one, but there'll be some reward, like some artifact, some cool gun you might get, but some of your guys might die if you do it. Again, these are all very video gamey changes, the kind of thing that you can't do in a board game that's designed to be played in one sitting. This is more about making it a thing that you can keep coming back to. And it gets rid of the dice rolling whenever you shoot, and does things like keep track of how much ammunition you've got and how warm your guns are, and you have to cool them down as well as reloading, which is all the kind of stuff that would just be too mechanically complicated for a
So,
board
to be
game.
honest, it sounds, when all the video gamey things that you're describing, regardless of it being similar to this board game, it sounds very generic.
Mhm.
Is it in any way outstanding? It sounds like I could play XCOM.
That is exactly what it is like. Unless you have a real love for Space Hulk and the Warhammer 40,000 universe that it's based in, this really does seem like becoming more like XCOM without being as good as XCOM, which is why I think they haven't gone far enough. Like, the levels themselves still look like they were mapped out for a board game that's made by putting cardboard rooms and corridors together. They're still flat 2D things about the size of your dinner table, rather than being like it's the 41st millennium, and then the grim darkness of the far future. They don't have steps or balconies or elevators. Every level is completely flat.
Yeah.
Because it's still just thinking like a board game. There's no verticality or anything like that, which
Yeah.
would actually make it, like if you wanted to make it video gamey in an interesting way, that would be the first thing you do, rather than making it keep track of every bullet you fire.
Maybe you don't realize that in order to pass through black holes and what have you in space, you have to have a single layer of, and that's it. Like anything else would just get like shorn off.
Wiped
They're
out.
like paper planes.
Yeah.
That's how you
Is it
travel
not kind
faster
of
than light.
charming in that it reminds you of the board game?
The previous version was, because that was much more like the board game,
Yeah.
but this is just like the board game in boring ways. Like, because it's not exactly like the board game, it doesn't do that same thing of making me feel like I'm playing it. It just makes me feel like I'm playing a video game that is
Isn't
nodding
as good
towards
as
but
XCOM.
isn't as good as XCOM.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, well, this is almost as good as XCOM, so nice try, I guess.
Yeah.
It has a new campaign, but the other 2 campaigns are just modified versions of the campaigns you got in the previous version of Space Hulk. It also doesn't have multiplayer. This one is purely single player, whereas the previous one you could play against your friends, so you could get to be the aliens sometimes, which is like part of the appeal of the board game, is that you can be the aliens or the Marines, but
I
they've
feel
never...
like even a boring game can be made fun if you can play it multiplayer,
Yeah.
especially if it's supposed to be inspired by a board game. But in this case, if not, then yeah, it kind of sounds pointless.
It's they've made some really odd choices, and they've added new Marines. Like in the previous one, you could play as the Blood Angels, who were like the gothy red dudes, and the
They're my
Space Wolves,
favourites.
who were the Viking bros, who are all hairy and stuff. And they've added a whole new chapter, the Ultramarines, who are the boring blue
Yeah,
ones.
great.
They're like nobody's favorite in all of the Warhammer 40,000 universe of fiction. They chose the most boring ones to
They
add in.
always do that though. Whenever they're like doing a big, like fancy thing, they either go with the invented chapter that no one cares about, or they go with the Ultramarines. I guess because then you don't have to like.
Because the Ultramarines are iconic, I think.
They're iconic because they're generic.
Yeah.
But compared to the 2 interesting chapters
Yeah.
that they have already, like, they seem kind of bland. If they're the one you get introduced to first, then fine, because they're
Yeah.
the baseline one. but having them as the special new bonus is
Yeah,
like,
that's a bit silly.
nobody wants that.
Yeah, now with vanilla.
If you're going to let me play as a whole new thing, let me play as the aliens, please.
Yeah.
Why not have a
Yeah.
whole new campaign where you get to be the four-armed, crazy-looking alien?
That'd be sweet.
So, like, I mean, Space Hulk is a pretty iconic board game. But what they've done with this version then is hybridize it and take away the things that make it work as a board game to make it seem to appeal to a video gamey audience. Like, who is left to enjoy that then?
People who played the previous version of Space Hulk and were annoyed that it wasn't video gamey enough, I assume. There must be those people out there. But
Can you give us like maybe a short list of positives of things that you really did like about it?
Well, I did like being more attached to the characters because I could rename them, and there was that persistence. Because the previous version, if someone died, they'd just be back in the next mission because that's how the board game works. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair.
Yep.
And in this, they actually die and they're gone, and so
Like
it
XCOM.
does have that feeling of, increased tension, which is nice. Like, I like that, but it's not quite enough. The other thing that it can do differently is have the aliens look much more varied, rather than just having them all be the one specific kind of creepy carapaced, looks a bit like the alien from Aliens. Now they're all different and slightly different in terms of their stats. So there'll be like angry red dudes and guys who only have 3 arms, and bigger ones and smaller ones. So there's actually more variety in that sense, which makes it more interesting to
These
look at.
seem like very small pros.
Yes.
Things that most
Yes.
games would already have.
Yes.
That's a shame.
I remember when you initially reviewed Space Hulk last year, Jody, one of your complaints was that the animations for each turn were too drawn out, they were too slow. Have they at least fixed that this time?
Well, yeah, but they also fixed that in the previous one. They patched in a thing that made your Space Marines move faster if you just toggled in the options, and they clattered around at a hilarious speed if you put it up on max. So that's in this one from the get-go. The fact that you can only play it single player means you never have to wait for the other person's animations to play out. But they do move faster, which is just make it less boring. You can get along with your turns at a pretty decent clip and play through it at speed.
There's also an element from the game that I think translated over pretty badly in the last version, which is that it's really hard to succeed when you're under the pump as a Space Marine. You tend to fail, you tend to misfire right when you need to be able to shoot a Gene Stealer before it cuts your face off. And in the video game version of that, where you are like fumbling as the alien is advancing on you, and as the dice roll are just coming up crap, like there you at least have the smirking face of your opponent there as your life falls apart in front of you. But in the video game, it was just like, the random number generator gave me another 1 and now I'm dead. But it does that over a protracted period of you just watching a series of failures that you had not even any like tangible impact on. Like, how do they translate that over, or have they just kept that in there as rubbish as it was?
No, they haven't. They've gotten rid of the dicey randomness of it, because now you have to spend an action point to cool your gun down, and it actually, there's like an icon with a picture of your gun that fills up and turns red as it overheats, so every time you shoot it, it's getting warmer. So rather than having a completely random thing where if you roll doubles, your first shot on Overwatch might jam, now you know when your gun is about to jam. You see every time you shoot that you're getting closer and closer to the red. So if you're careful, you never have guns jam unless a crazy number of Gene Stealers come at you all at once. You can prepare for that more. So it does reduce the element of randomness almost entirely out of it.
Does that change the flow of the game a lot?
It does get rid of what could make for cool tense moments, but also could be really annoying, because it means that now if you know I'm going to spend an action point to reload and an action point to cool my gun and then 2 action points to go into Overwatch, I'm going to be fine. Like now you can prepare for things much more, and it makes it less terrifying but also less annoying. There's a trade-off there.
So it's essentially made it more tactical instead of chance-based, even though the chance-based stuff is occasionally fun.
Yes.
So the chance-based stuff was what made that game, like the board game, what it was, I think. So to remove that just to smooth that out for the video game seems to be taking away something that is built into that design.
I do think that's something that kind of annoys people in video games a lot, though. If something is too chance-based and you fail a lot based on, a random number generator, like you said, you can get really frustrated.
But what it's simulating is something else entirely, though, right? Like it's that desperate moment as the alien is coming to get you, where things could go in either direction, and you get that cool cinematic thing where the guy's just like spraying the gun, or alternatively, like as it's coming towards him, all you get is the click of the the gun not working. And here they've taken that out completely just to satisfy that person who wants that smooth experience, and then you lose that cool thing that is kind of at the heart of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love playing board games and will happily spend like all of Sunday playing Settlers of Catan, and this just really reminds me of what board games do well and what video games sometimes don't do well.
And that was Space Hulk Ascension Edition?
That's right, only available on PC this time. Now, the rest of the crew have all been playing Assassin's Creed Unity. So you've been assassinating it up in revolutionary France?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Sometimes. You've been
The whole France thing is such an insignificant part of the game.
No one has a French accent.
No one has a French accent. You don't really see, aside from things obviously escalating and there being more people in the streets, you don't feel like you're a part of the revolution at all.
No.
And you're a French nobleman with a British accent.
The other night he said au revoir to someone, which I'm pretty certain is a French word.
That one time he said it.
Yeah, but he did, around that, he was speaking in, like, clipped British English.
Everyone. It's really weird.
It's real weird.
So aside from there being landmarks that you do get to go to that are French, you don't really feel like you're in France at any point and be like, wait, no, I am in Paris. I'm not actually in England.
My favourite is the women who have been robbed, who have that amazing Cockney accent.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oi, bring that back, you! I've been robbed!
Someone stole me croissant!
Yeah.
Help!
And all of the guards as well. It's just, it's weird as.
Yeah. Oi, you!
It's so
Get over here! We're in France! This is not off to a good start.
It's strange because it was developed by a French studio.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
with a French historian.
What is the excuse?
And a French-Canadian cast, like the main guy, when he's being interviewed about it, he's got a French last name and speaks French. They should have gotten him to speak with a French accent.
It's so weird. So the actual, I don't even know if it's worth discussing. Really, the story of the game is not very good. There's still some of that Assassin Abstergo stuff, but it's very minimal and kind of feels out of place. So that's, if you play the other Assassin's Creed games...
There's no modern
you'll
world
know.
stuff, really.
No, nothing in the modern world, where all of the other games have you brought out of the Animus, which is basically the device that lets you see into history and do these cool things that go on in the Assassin's Creed games. This one doesn't really have much of that.
But is that for the better, though, do you think?
I just wish they'd either kept it in there and made it interesting or taken it out completely instead of what is in Unity, which is like a half-assed kind of hindrance when it happens.
Yeah, like I think that you can't have an Assassin's Creed game without it because it is actually what holds them all together. It's just that they've always done it in a way that has annoyed a fair portion of the audience. I don't think it's...
mind it in Assassin's Creed 4.
Yeah, like it's fine in 4, it was really good in Rogue, and I've enjoyed it in the previous ones. I'm like one of those people who are like, I like Desmond, why not?
I liked him.
But
I hated Desmond.
yeah, but it's always been, like, I feel like they're kind of embarrassed of it.
I think so. That's how it felt in this, for sure.
Yeah.
What happens is just some lady that you never see talks to you, and occasionally the Animus screws up and you get sent to different periods of time in Paris, which is quite cool to see. At one point you're scaling the Eiffel Tower, where when you're actually playing as Arno, you can't even see the Eiffel Tower. It hasn't been built yet. So that was actually quite cool, but it just felt so pointless, just so completely pointless.
Yeah.
And the story itself is I want to say the other Assassin's Creed games are a lot more grand. The actual story, or Arno's story, is really just about trying to woo a girl. The entire thing. He almost disrespects the actual creed of assassins, all of them, by being so flippantly stubborn about the things that they enforce. He just doesn't care about it, which
Yeah.
is like, well, screw you. I loved Ezio. How dare you disrespect all of these people by not caring? And
Yeah.
it feels like it's not an Assassin's Creed game in that kind of
And
stuff.
it also it shows you the story beats after the important story beats as well. Like there was a time where one of the early missions, you're chasing down a guy, and it's been they sort of go, you click on the mission and it goes, some time has passed and now you're an assassin.
Yes.
Which, like, that would be cool to see how I went from just a guy with a ponytail to becoming an assassin video game.
I feel like that would have been important.
That would have been really... You could have taught me all the things, you know, but no, that's fine. And then, because you are supposed to be hunting down the guy who is your father figure who's been killed by a conspiracy. That's not a spoiler. That's every Assassin's
the
Creed
entire
game.
game, yeah.
Who killed my dad? That's the plot of every single one. And so the first...
So true.
Yeah, the first mission that you're wearing the hood, you're out with your mentor, and he's like, "All right, we're gonna go and sneak up on this guy. I'm also very British
Piss
and
pot.
gruff,
He calls
piss
you
pot.
piss pot.
Yeah, which is that's French. But after you sneak up on this guy and then you let him go. And like you're fine with that as the player because I guess that's the parameter of this mission. And then there's a cutscene where Arno, the main character, is suddenly very angry because he's like, "Why did you make me let him go? He's the guy who killed my dad." Like, how did we know that?
Yeah.
You never told me that we already knew who killed my dad and that was him when I could have killed him. Why are you
Or I
making
would have.
a video game story about the things that aren't important after the
Yeah,
important
and
things?
every Assassin's Creed game has at least one betrayal, and this one does as well. And then after it happens, it just doesn't matter. Like it happens, you deal with it. Nobody else ever brings it up or cares at any point. It's just so weird. I found the story to be one of the easiest to follow because you knew exactly what you were doing and who you were hunting down and what their role was the entire time. Where a lot of the others, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How are you related to this? But this one actually made sense. It just wasn't very good.
Yeah. So the other thing about it is that it's not, even though like technically this is it's a gorgeous game. We got to get that out of the way.
Yeah, we should mention glitches though.
Oh yeah, it's glitchy as hell.
A lot of people levitating. That was my favorite.
I'm playing it on the PC, and I've seen like people accidentally walk on like horse carts occasionally, but for the most
they just
for the,
pop up.
for the most part, it actually
They're
it
all
just
tolerable
works.
glitches for me. I've had it's crashed 3 times and crashed my console twice, so just completely turned it
That's
off.
pretty rough.
Yeah, but it didn't really hinder me too bad.
But there are people who are having like in opening cutscenes, skinless eyeball creatures mouth at them.
Apparently
if
it was
they're
really
floating.
rare.
Yeah, I've seen 2 different photos of it.
That's all I've seen. Yeah, 2
and
photos.
it's
yeah.
and it's amazing and also horrifying.
Yeah.
But like for me, it works, and it's visually stunning.
Yeah, the glitches actually didn't really bother me at all. Other things that are kind of annoying before we get to the actual gameplay, I guess, is
Yeah.
there are microtransactions which are kind of misleading.
Yeah.
You go into one of the menus where you can buy equipment, and you can, for whatever reason, do that just at any point in time without needing to go to a shop.
Even though there's a shop where you have to go to buy other things.
You
Who
can
lets
buy
you-
any clothing immediately whenever you want, and there's heaps of it, and I think that's cool. There's a lot
Yeah.
of variety. You can really customize your character in ways you couldn't in the other games, which is cool. But yeah, there's an X to hack button, and if you press it, it just takes you to purchase things. Like it doesn't. I thought hack would be a cool mini game.
Yeah.
Hack's not a cool mini game.
Hack's a different currency.
Yes.
Hack costs money.
Yes, actual money, and it's
Yeah.
misleading and expensive as well. It's
And
just ridiculous.
So they're not on top of that, there are also chests littered around the map. But you can't open all the chests. Some of the chests you can open. Some of the chests you have to open if you've got an Initiates account hooked up through your Ubisoft account, which is then
Or-
attached to all of your other Assassin's Creed games.
Or an app.
Yeah, and
So
then
there are two
no,
separate types
yeah,
of chests you can't
and
open.
then there's the app ones, so you've got to have the companion app. So you have to like do all these things outside of the Assassin's Creed
Just to get the
game to
chest.
open up a chest to get 100 like assassin bucks anyway. A meaningless amount. Why, you jerks?
Yeah, I found that annoying with Destiny as well. It kept trying to prompt me to go outside of the game and do stuff like, oh, read up at this story because it's great at this URL. And I'm just like, I want to keep playing the game. Why doesn't the game tell
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So those are bad things.
yeah, but like technically it's really ambitious that they've got these massive crowd scenes and this like the lighting in the game is phenomenal and the environments are really really cool, but it's so like unambitious when it comes to the story stuff and the mission types as well.
To be honest, I really enjoyed the missions.
Yeah.
More than probably any other Assassin's Creed game.
But you don't really have like you have nothing new there. Like there's nothing.
Well, okay, so one of the things we should talk about is the stealth mechanic, where now you can actually cover and you can use stealth.
Yeah.
And
You can crouch now.
You can crouch.
You can crouch. I know.
Yeah.
And there's this thing called line of sight, which I used a lot, but other people I've discussed it with didn't, which is basically like the last place that a guard sees you, you can walk in front of them. They get a little thing above their head that's like, oh, he's noticed you, and there's a noise, and then you walk away, and it'll leave a silhouette, kind of transparent silhouette of where they last saw you. So you can actually manipulate the guards to walk to certain places based on your line of sight to then take them out. And majority, or maybe it just felt like majority of the missions in the game were infiltration missions of you having to find your way into a building where there's guards everywhere and climb inside a window or something and then find one specific person going through all these rooms and corridors and locked doors and avoiding all the guards essentially. And I found that A, more challenging, and B, it was more like a puzzle, like an interactive puzzle than any of the other Assassin's Creed games. And I really enjoyed it every single time I did it, even though for whatever reason they all seemed to be in the same like 2 buildings. Like break into this one building again. I'm like, well, I know where the window is now, so okay.
Everyone really wants to hang out in Notre Dame.
Everyone.
Yeah.
So
or
many people there.
Or the graveyard. Yeah.
The graveyard?
Yeah, there's a graveyard where you keep having to kill dudes. Yeah. So the story.
Efficient.
Yeah, that is. You wait till they're in front of an open grave.
Just kick them in.
Yeah.
They're all good.
The story missions where you have to assassinate key members of the Templars, those are great because they're open and there are often like
There are side options,
Yeah.
which were awesome. Like one of them, you had the option to find a guy who has keys to open people who are in jail cells to cause a distraction, or maybe it was to cause them to fight with you. Yeah, so you could get them to fight alongside you if you needed their help.
Yeah.
And then there was another guy in that same mission who had fireworks, and if you protected him to get to wherever he needed to go, he would blow the fireworks and would create a distraction for you. So there were heaps of like optional things that you could do that would change your circumstances that were quite challenging. They weren't always easy. So you had to weigh out whether you want to do them or not, or whether you just want to go in and try and stealth your way through. So I feel like it did feel really different to all of the other Assassin's Creed games, and that they got rid of all those crappy tail this person and listen to what they're saying.
they got rid of the
stuff,
tailing missions,
which
yeah.
were horrible.
But
And they
then-
got rid of those.
I also feel like they have added so much content that doesn't add anything significant.
It
to
is
the
a
game.
huge game.
Yeah, it's huge.
The
and-
map is exhausting to look at.
Yeah, when you zoom out on the map, all it is just
Just stuff.
100 million icons,
Stuff.
just things you'll never be able to get to.
Yeah, I don't really like that. I don't
Yeah.
like having every single mission
No.
laid out on the map there. It just overwhelms me.
It's too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then there are so many side missions that are incredibly uninteresting, where you will go and talk to someone who will have like one line of dialogue, and then you have to go across town.
Are you referring to the murder mysteries?
No, the murder mysteries are almost okay. I'm
I
talking
really
about,
liked a few of those.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the hundreds of others. Like every time you open a cafe, here's 2 more icons have ended up on your map with missions to cross
Yes,
town.
those
and
were
kill
very
some-
boring.
Yeah,
Yes.
and there are hundreds of them.
A lot of them are pointless.
And yet, like, that took time to do. They thought, like, when they were designing the game, they were like, people want a lot of content rather than people might like one really memorable mission. They just made 100 really boring ones all over the place.
See, I do feel like a lot of the main missions of the actual story were memorable. I had fun doing some
Yeah,
of those.
yeah.
And getting my way into a building and using the Berserk Blade, and I only had, 2 arrows with that, which are the ones that like basically make whoever you shoot just go crazy and kill everyone. So
Yeah.
strategically planning when I was going to shoot them and who I was going to shoot. Like I had so much fun with those. So it feels a little bit weird to complain about the game having too much optional content.
No, it's absolutely a valid.
I would have just liked more variety
Yeah,
in the
that's-
main content.
That's it. I'm saying that in making hundreds of the same kind of thing, just like scattered around
Yeah.
the map, they wasted their own time because they thought that what I wanted to do was the same shit over and over again
Yeah.
rather than do a new thing.
But I still didn't find that the actual main story was boring in any way. Like, the whole time that I played through that, I was enjoying all of those individual missions, even if they did feel repetitive. So I didn't think that it was bad. So I couldn't say, like, oh, why did they waste time making this stuff? Because this sucks. Because I didn't think that the actual main game sucked.
I
Aside from the bugs,
thought
maybe.
that like that they were trying to recapture what they did with Ezio. Like
It feels a lot like Assassin's Creed 2.
Arno's entire arc is basically the same as Ezio's, except Ezio felt a bit more authentic. Ezio spoke with an Italian accent. You saw Ezio develop as a character. Here, Arno just exists to be sarcastic and have things happen around him.
And mansplain a lot.
Yeah,
Did lots of mansplaining.
And he's like he is a cool looking character who has a neat sounding voice, who says a lot of sarcastic things, yet none of that stuff really comes together to leave any real impression.
I don't think the story does, no, but again, I enjoyed the game.
But I think like even the addition of the stealth stuff and the openness of the main assassination missions is fantastic, but everything else that was happening around that is stuff that I had seen and done so many times before, that it was like I was playing Rogue at the same time, and Rogue has 100 cool new ideas in it that no one is ever going to see because it's on the old console, and yet Unity here is just like they're really proud of their cool new assassin weapon that you get, which is that the wrist blade shoots a knife out of it. The other one had a gun in it anyway.
Yeah.
You've already got a gun. I've had a crossbow. Like, that is not an exciting new innovation.
I just feel like it felt really different to me because I was infiltrating buildings and not just walking around a camp dumbly, running in, stabbing a guy and running out. I think that there was a lot more thought in each mission, and that made it feel really different to me, even though if you actually wrote it down on paper, it would be quite repetitive. Like, I still feel like it's worth playing if you like Assassin's Creed, or even if you slightly like Assassin's Creed, because it feels kind of fresh, or more so than the last 3 games put together did.
I've played every single Assassin's Creed game to completion.
Also, except Rogue.
Yeah, and I think that this one, as much as like the open missions have been what I've always wanted, what I've wanted since the first one.
Yeah.
Since like there's the first assassination mission that you have in Assassin's Creed 1 is the last one in the series that lets you come up with your own approach. And ever since then it's all about doing this cinematic thing that goes
exactly
against
the way they want you to.
Yeah, and this is the first time that you actually get to scan an environment and work out your own approach. And all of that stuff is really, really cool. And that's great. But to do that at the expense of all of the interesting stuff that makes the series cool, I think. Like, here's the thing about it.
It doesn't feel, in story terms, as important as the others did. Even if they were nonsense in retrospect, it doesn't feel grand or epic.
Yeah.
It just kind of feels like some dude who wants to win a girl over.
Yeah, like Shadows of Mordor does exactly that same open world stuff where you get to have your own approach, but it also has you fight orcs with personality and you've got superpowers. This here wastes everything that's cool about Assassin's Creed, even though it does introduce like a great mechanic. It doesn't give you any new fun toys at the same time.
That is true.
Okay, I'm going to give you the last word there, Lee, because we're just about out
No,
of
let
time.
Alana have it.
I don't have anything else to say. It is done. Oh, you can now free run down by holding B.
Oh, and multiplayer is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Right, good. Nailed it.
Another Z Games concise and thorough review there. We'll be back next week at the same time. We're going to be talking about Dragon Age Inquisition, a game that I think most of us are very excited by. All right, we'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.